CAYCE's ARE has changed my life.
I've used the readings for health, for spirituality, for a way to guide my life, and they mean the world to me.
Someone gave me a book about EDGAR CAYCE, and it was just so wonderful to believe.
And all these things meant so much to me. I'd missed so much in the former years of my life.
Been touched by the EDGAR CAYCE.
His name is EDGAR CAYCE. Have you ever heard of him? And I said, no, I really haven't, but that sounds very interesting. And that began a path of what my personal life,
God led me back to there is a river. Somehow I would find the courage to go on, and that was profoundly important to me.
One of the things we do with the development office that you may not know is every month we send out birthday cards to longtime members. And a bunch of us sign them when we send it out. And the other day we got back a testimonial that I wanted to share with you from a longtime member in Connecticut, Ron Stebbins, in response to one of the birthday cards we sent. ARE, I want to thank the ARE for sending me a birthday card. It was the only note that remembered me. I am 78 years old, and everybody on my personal side of my life are gone. Family and personal friends. The last two friends died around 2 years ago. I became involved with the ARE and the CAYCE readings about 1968-69. Started purchasing ARE reading material and became a member in 1983, I believe. Application of the CAYCE philosophy stuck in my mind. It was a difficult, long journey to overcome some weaknesses and dealing with my outside life as well. CAYCE's approach to daily meditation was an important practice and still is. I'm also a musician, teaching and played in local bands as a guitarist that lean towards the creative side, which jazz has always been my favorite since childhood. I really appreciate the ARE's birthday card, the only one that will remember to say hello. Thank you very much for this very nice card and the many years of the CAYCE philosophy, and of course, the ARE. Ron. And I have to tell you that each and every one of you touch members' lives every single day. Whether it's saying hello to someone in the lobby, or Mike putting a book in a bag and sending it out to a member somewhere, talking to someone kindly on the phone, running into someone here and just giving them a few words. But we touch these people and they remember. So I just want to say thank you each and every one of you. And as you know, I often get testimonials sent to my office. And if you ever need a pick-me-up, please come on by. I have a whole folder of them. Here's one I picked out for today from a member in Illinois. I'm a lifelong Protestant who was not spiritually satisfied. Through the EDGAR CAYCE readings, I have found a spiritual home that allows me to better understand what Jesus was trying to instill. I joined ARE because I have loved having access to all the available material for my own spiritual growth. My life has been affected by belonging to a study group, which has enabled me to question and redefine my beliefs with like-minded seekers who are never judgmental. I have become more and more aware of my relationship with God and what that entails. I would recommend ARE to others because the materials and the lectures that are available are truly life-changing. Now, on a humorous note, I've told you all before that I often get testimonials about this work. And the one I want to share with you today made me smile. This is from an 83-year-old member, been a member for a long time. This was her testimonial that came in. I started with EDGAR CAYCE when I was 15. I'm 83 now. Despite my Catholic school education, I felt something was missing. When my cousin gave me a copy of the CAYCE biography, There Was a River, it changed my life. I've reached a lot of people with my beliefs, and their interest in EDGAR CAYCE has grown as they've aged. I used to be considered pretty odd by my peers. I'm now considered a wise woman, although I have doubts about that. and people often come to me for advice on life and death. My membership is now sponsored since I cannot afford it any longer, but my interest has not waned one iota. I used to attend many conferences in Virginia Beach and even went to Bimini to look for Atlantis with the ARE to see if we could find it. That experience taught me that Atlantis won't be found by a group of middle-aged women with teaspoons for digging, but with side-scan sonar when it is time to become known. My life has truly been one of adventure and joy. So, great testimony. Now, one of the advantages I have, and I know some of you, especially like, for example, in customer service, get to see testimonials that come in all the time. And as I've said in our office before and up here before, if you get a testimonial that's really good, please share it. Please share it with Mari or I, pass it along to your director. We had a development-sponsored donor meeting at the Ancient Mysteries Conference. It was really good. It was up there in the Copeland Dining Room. And I shared this testimonial that had just come in this month via the web, and it is so good I wanted to share it with all of you. So this is a testimony that just came in a few weeks ago. Hello, my name is Adam Wyant. I'm just writing you because I would like the ARE to know how much EDGAR CAYCE changed my life. Flashback, almost 2 years to the day. I was sitting in a homeless shelter with nothing but a bag of clothes. I had suffered with heroin addiction for years and had been in and out of rehab and constantly homeless, and that is where I found myself after being lost for so long. My aunt had bought me Sidney Kirkpatrick's book, EDGAR CAYCE, An American Prophet, and I took it with me to the shelter. Her mother, my grandmother, was apparently an EDGAR CAYCE follower, and they had even gone to the EDGAR CAYCE library years ago when my father was stationed in Virginia Beach. I took that book wherever I went, highlighting the readings, and on the daily I would go back to it for more understanding. 2 years have passed, almost to that day that I entered the shelter. My life has changed dramatically. I no longer am a heroin addict. I have great relationships with my family. I became an art teacher at a church for adults with developmental disabilities, where I get to share my gift of music. I started a band and recorded 2 records. I have an apartment on the water in Long Island, and most of all, I met the most wonderful woman at my job, a person I never thought I would meet in 1,000 years. But thanks to the selfless service that we have devoted our lives to, we were able to come together. The book that changed my life is still sitting right next to me. It gave me hope when it was most certainly lost. Before the time I went to the homeless shelter and rehab, I made the decision that I was going to die. Somehow EDGAR CAYCE saved my life, and through his readings I have found meaning and hope. I am not rich and do not have all the material wealth that a 30-year-old should or might have, but I have something much more. I continue to grow now every day, constantly meeting self and trying to do my best. I'm forever grateful for EDGAR CAYCE for giving his life to a better purpose. Without him, I probably would have never made it. Thank you, ARE, for your contribution to the world. I look forward to coming to the library and seeing for myself what helped change the lives of so many. I hope the email serves you well, and thank you all so much for everything you do. Sincerely, Adam Wyant. Guys, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. What we always like to do is show you a member testimonial. Remember, one of the things that is really great for me is a lot of testimonials come through my office, whether it's online or a member writing a letter. And here's one I picked out the other day for you to see. And if you ever need a pickup, I have a big stack of them in my inbox that you can just come and look at. The EDGAR CAYCE work has meant everything to me. After years of research, I found the CAYCE readings, and finally, it all made sense. Everything made sense. Finally, all of my life's questions were answered. My ARE membership continues to affect my life in 3 ways. First, the ARE presence is a good reminder for me to keep focused on my spiritual growth. I may get caught up in the material world, but the magazines and newsletters and emails are a great reminder of what is really important. Second, the insights and spiritual experiences I've had would not have been possible without reading the articles and seeing the video presentations from ARE leadership. And finally, the ARE made it possible for me to read A Search for God, books 1 and 2. And when I finally read it, I was amazed and enlightened. Member in Burbank, California. Now, every time we get together, in my inbox, there is a stack of testimonials of how this work has changed people's lives, and I have a couple to share with you today. Here's one. The work of EDGAR CAYCE inspires me and uplifts me. It is a solid reminder of humankind's connection to the divine. In reading and reflecting upon the life of Edgar Cayce and his friends, family, and all that they experienced, it helps me to deal with my own life's problems. No life is without its challenges. Cayce's life gives me hope to keep on going, ever reminding me that we each have difficulties that we've chosen at a soul level in order for the rough diamond contained within us to be polished out. The readings continue to inspire me. And here's one that came in just the other day. Dear ARE, my name is Ida Sheldon, age 10. I lost my tooth and got $1 from the Tooth Fairy. I want to donate it to you. Thank you, Ida. Ida, as I tell you, every time we get together, I have a big stack of testimonials upstairs. So here's one I picked yesterday, and I picked it because this person is on the far other coast up in Washington. So get someone from the other side of the country. I have been in a Search for God study group for over 20 years and discovered new levels of spiritual growth and understanding every time we cycle through the chapters or material. As Hugh Cayce once said, it seemed as though we read something in a chapter that hadn't been there the first or even second time through. Discussions in this safe group environment help to develop confidence in formulating my thoughts and in sharing them, as well as to appreciate differing ideas. I am more forgiving, respectful, and accepting. I see my shortcomings, motivations, and patterns of behavior much more clearly. Death seems less ominous with continuity of life. The Bible has come alive for me. Friendships are deep and true. I know my life is okay just the way it is, yet keeping on the path toward greater attunements is vital. I'm thankful for challenges as being opportunities to grow. Great testimonial. And every month I talk to you about all the testimonials that come to my office. And if you ever need to pick me up, to come on up and check it up, this is the one I picked out for this meeting today. The work means more to me than I can say. It has helped me in my personal growth within, which is very important to me. It is a haven of personal peace when things get me down. It has brought me happiness and peace. It has shown me that we are all one and that we are all part of the infinite. It has taught me to pray more and with great effect. It has been a personal blessing to me. I'm grateful for the work of Mr. Cayce as well as all the good people who are a part of the organization. The readings are an infinite source of lessons and help not only to myself but many others. Sometimes the joy I receive when reading the magazine or newsletter moves me to tears. I shall remain a member all my life. From New Windsor, New York. And remember, each time we have a meeting, I'll tell you I have a stack of testimonials up there, upstairs in my office, if you ever need an upliftment. Here's one that came in from Belgium. Ever since I first read the Edgar Cayce literature back in the 60s and became a member of the ARE, I have felt uplifted and thankful that I was guided to this work. It was wonderful to visit the ARE in the 70s, and I was privileged to meet Hugh Cayce while sitting on a Search for God study group that he attended. I have lived out of the U.S. for over 40 years. And it is such a good feeling still being able to be connected to Edgar Cayce and the ARE. Now having an online membership makes it really easy to stay in touch, although I often go back to my bookcase and pull out ARE pamphlets and Venture Inward magazines from way back. Having an ARE membership is life enriching. I feel that I am more grounded and cheerful and able to feel connected to my life's purpose. I feel happy thinking of Edgar Cayce and being part of our ARE family. Now, you know, every time we get together, I usually put up one of my favorite readings. And I was going through looking for one yesterday, and I realized, you know, just as interesting sometimes as the readings themselves are the report files. And there is a wealth of information in the report files that is sometimes as insightful, sometimes just as interesting, and sometimes extremely humorous. And for those who don't know, every reading has a background information in terms of how the person found out about Mr. Cayce. It has an index, all the topics mentioned in the readings. It has the text, which is the reading itself, and then it has a report file at the back. And I came across this one, which was a great letter between Miss 464, who had more than probably 30 readings, and she's a very humorous letter writer. She had written Mr. Cayce about her family holiday and a resolution she had picked. And the correspondence between these two in this one letter is several pages. I just excerpted it apart just to give you a sense of what you can find in the report files. So this is her letter dated December 31st. Dear Mr. Cayce, I have made 2 resolutions for the new year. My resolutions are no swearing or calling anyone any bad names. And when I told Bea, my daughter, she gave me a scornful look and said, "You know right well the first time you catch sight of Miss Yitherington, you will forget all about resolutions and the air will be full of brimstone." Mrs. Yitherington is Irish, of the fishing type, somewhat of a liar, and with a few screws loose here and there. She lives next door and gets on my nerves. The sight of her is like shaking a red rag at a bull. So I began to take stock of myself, seeing it as the time of year to make resolutions, hoping that by diligent practice I could overcome my tendencies of the use of expressive language on short-time order. The next time you hear from me, my letters will be soft and smooth with delicate wording. Yours sincerely, Miss 464. So this is Mr. Casey's response. Your New Year's resolutions are very interesting, to say the least, and though you might, under stress, as Bea says, skip over and let loose before you realized it, the try is the thing. I'm very sure for most of us, if God doesn't count our trying for righteousness, we will all fall very short, but I'm persuaded He does just that. So I'm sure you'll find a great deal of fun also in your experiment, may we call it. But I'm sure a lot of help will come to you for the try. My New Year's resolution is to eat whatever they set before me, without remarks as to what would have liked to have had. Guess the madam does get tired of complaints. So here's hoping no more from me. Don't know how long I will hold out. Can dream, at least, can't I? With all good wishes and hoping all good things you have wished for come to you with the new year. Sincerely, EDGAR CAYCE. So I encourage you to go to look at the report files on some of these readings. They're quite interesting. So our testimonial this month comes from Nova Scotia. The EDGAR CAYCE work confirms my belief in God and educates me in interesting facts about just about everything. This body of knowledge makes it easier to understand where we came from and where we're going. I do not fear death because I realize that I'm a spirit in a body for a short time here on earth to learn and evolve spiritually before passing once again through God's other door. I have to remind myself often that how I treat others is the most important part of living. And although I may fail in this endeavor on a daily basis, I know that I must keep trying. I was and am simply fascinated by the body of work that EDGAR CAYCE left behind. And I like the fact there are so many like-minded people who also belong to ARE. I would recommend ARE membership based on what it has given me. A.H. Bedford, Nova Scotia. Then I mention every time that we have member testimonials, and you're welcome to come up to my office and look at some. I actually went online. A membership sends out a survey, monthly survey, there's a link to it, that members can just go in and fill out how they feel about the organization. So I went to the survey yesterday, and I pulled one off of the survey. I have never accessed any other information more insightful, profound, or thought-provoking. His life, readings, and books written about his life have completely changed my life and my direction in life. I came across the Casey information in 1980 and visited the ARE that same year, and at least every 2 years thereafter. The intellectual stimulation was wonderful. It wasn't until 1994, however, that I started my own A Search for God study group. I had read A Search for God several times during those 14 years before starting the group, but 1994 marks the year when things really took off for me. That's when I really started working on my application of what we were studying, and continue to do so. I would absolutely recommend ARE to others because it can change their lives for the better, which means they will be helping the world change for the better. One of our members from Indianapolis. And in terms of member testimonial, I got one from Australia. Everyone wants a little bunny like that. I have been at a spiritual crossroads. After a massive collision in my life, I have felt the honesty in the Casey material. I'm fairly new to the organization, but so far it has been very comforting. As I search for my spirituality, I have found a good balance in the material. I find the Casey information both interesting and supportive. I really like the grounding vibe I get from this material. All right, the testimonial, it's a long one, but it's worthwhile. So let me go through this with you. I had been away from the ARE for the past 7 years until just recently when I was contacted by a gentleman there who talked me into renewing my online subscription to the ARE. We have a gentleman who calls people who haven't renewed for a while and either invites them to renew, and if they can't do that, we give them a scholarship. Prior to this, I had invested a great portion of my life in study of Mr. Casey's life work and the work that goes on daily within the ARE. I was even a full-time student with Atlantic University for a number of years, where I came close to completing my transpersonal psychology degree program. We need to call him back, Rachel, to finish. True, the year 2012 was not the year of global catastrophe as many thought it might be. But for me personally, I do not believe that 2012 could have been any worse had the world ended. In August of 2007, my wife was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer, and thus began the difficult and all-consuming treatment process, which became a focal point in our lives for the remainder of our time together. When the doctor assessed her condition in 2012, he told me there was nothing really that could be done for her other than to keep her comfortable. They placed her in a hospice facility where she passed away 3 days later. I made arrangements for her cremation and flew back to Texas on the end of the week. The next 4 months of my life was a roller coaster of chaos and emotional upheaval. That Labor Day weekend, I decided that if living was this painful and meaningless, then it was not worth continuing. It was not so much that I did not want to live, but rather I did not want to live with this horrific pain. I decided to end this pain using an overdose of prescription narcotics, and had it not been for Jack Daniels that night, I might not be writing this now. The Bible teaches us that we will not be tested more than we're able to handle, and I sincerely believe this now with all my heart. Looking back on this now, it is still hard for me to understand how dismal and traumatic situations can teach us anything. In truth, it is difficult, if not impossible, to see the beauty of a forest when you're lost among its trees. It is often said that time heals us, and I believe that this happens through slowly changing our perspective of how we see things, even the bad and difficult things. Yes, I have indeed grown for having experienced this life situation, and I believe that the synchronicity of these events to my association with the ARE has not been accidental. Looking back now, much of what I experienced and much of what I learned about myself during this stormy period of my life has been tempered and exemplified parallel to what I have learned through Mr. Casey's readings, through the courses I had at Atlantic University, through the many books I read from the ARE Press, and from the many excellent speakers I have heard speak at ARE conferences. My ideal has always been to be more like our Lord, Savior, Jesus Christ, and though this I can honestly say that I have experienced His unconditional love and His magnificent grace, even in the darkest moments. If we're honest with ourselves in respect to our spiritual growth, we will grow, though it may not be how we envision. Nor may it be all that pleasant in experience. What we receive through our life experiences and how we move forward or backward depends a lot on how we choose to respond to them. It is always our choice as to whether we work with God through our trials or to withdraw and blame Him for them. Either way, He never stops loving us, and He never forsakes us. And a member testimonial. This is from a member in Indiana. The work has blessed me with an understanding of this earth's struggles. Studying EDGAR CAYCE's readings and books have helped me to have a greater understanding of what I need to do to help the earth and myself, transitioning to a greater awareness of God. In my family, there have been miracles through prayer. I do believe that readings help me to better health. I have told people that I do not believe I would have lived past the age of 40 if I had not changed my habits and way of eating. EDGAR CAYCE's suggestions have been wonderfully helpful. ARE membership has helped me to become more aware of our earth and its people. We desperately need to treat one another and our planet with greater respect.